Get lost, poor officer, sneered the bank manager, sliding the loan application back across the polished mahogany desk. We don't waste our time on people like you. James Matthews, a decorated former police captain who'd taken 3 bullets protecting civilians during his 15-year career, stood there in stunned silence as laughter rippled through the open concept office. His face burned with humiliation as other bank employees and customers stared. Without a word, he gathered his documents, the rejection stinging worse than any physical wound he'd endured in the line of duty, and walked out with his dignity in tatters. The following morning, a sleek black Bentley pulled up outside First National Bank. The building's imposing facade of granite and glass gleamed in the morning sunlight. When the chauffeur opened the rear door, the bank manager's jaw dropped. He never saw it coming. The prestigious financial institution's employees scrambled to attention as they recognized the woman stepping out of the luxury vehicle, Sophia Loren, CEO of Loren Global Enterprises and one of the wealthiest businesswomen in the country. But what no one knew was her connection to the man they'd humiliated just yesterday. Before we continue, if you enjoy stories about sweet revenge and unexpected twists, make sure to click that subscribe button. This is the best way for you to support our work. Thank you very much, and let's continue. First National Bank stood as a monument to financial success in downtown Westbrook. Its marble columns and expansive glass entrance projected an image of stability and prosperity. Inside, rows of tellers served a steady stream of customers, while relationship managers occupied glass-walled offices along the perimeter, conducting business with those deemed worthy of their attention. James Matthews, at 38, maintained the disciplined posture and alert eyes of his police days despite now wearing civilian clothes. The small scar above his right eyebrow and the slight stiffness in his walk, reminders of his last day on the force, were barely noticeable unless you knew to look. After taking a bullet that shattered his hip during a bank robbery gone wrong, he had reluctantly accepted medical retirement. Now, he was pursuing his lifelong dream of opening a community center in the struggling neighborhood where he'd grown up. All he needed was a loan to renovate an abandoned building he'd already purchased with his savings. The business plan was sound, community support was strong, and his credit history was impeccable. Yet here he was, standing before Edwin Porter, the bank's loan manager, watching his application being dismissed without even a proper review. Edwin Porter, with his custom-tailored suit and perfectly coiffed hair, leaned back in his leather chair, barely concealing his disdain. At 45, he'd made his career by cultivating wealthy clients and dismissing those he deemed unworthy of the bank's resources. Mr. Matthews, Porter said with exaggerated patience, a community center in that neighborhood simply isn't a viable investment for our institution. The risk factors are too high. I've included market research and community pledges, James replied evenly, despite the frustration building inside him. The center would provide after-school programs, job training, and Porter held up his hand. Save the charity pitch. This is a financial institution, not a social services office. He slid the folder back across his desk without even opening it. The residents in that area barely maintain checking accounts. How would they afford membership fees? That's not how community centers work, James explained, keeping his voice steady. We have grant funding lined up, donations committed, and a sliding scale fee system that— Mr. Matthews, Porter interrupted again, louder this time, drawing attention from nearby desks. Let me be direct. Your pension isn't sufficient collateral, your business model is fundamentally flawed, and frankly, that neighborhood is a lost cause. A few employees nearby snickered. James felt heat rising in his face but maintained his composure, years of police training helping him control his reaction. I've provided all the financial documentation showing this is sustainable, James insisted, pushing the folder back toward Porter. All I'm asking is for you to actually review it. Bottias smile venished. He stood abruptly, towering over his desk. Let me make this perfectly clear, he said, his voice carrying across the open floor. We don't approve loans for risky ventures run by washed-up public servants playing community hero. The bank fell silent. Every eye was on them now. Get lost, poor officer, Porter added with quiet venom. We don't waste our time on people like you. Maybe try the credit union down the street. They're more accustomed to dealing with your demographic. James stood perfectly still, absorbing the humiliation. In his 15 years on the force, he'd faced armed criminals with more respect than this man in his expensive suit. Wordlessly, he collected his documents, nodded once, and walked out with his head held high despite the whispers that followed him. Outside, he slid into his modest sedan, placed the folder on the passenger seat, and gripped the steering wheel until his knuckles turned white. Only then did he allow himself a moment of raw emotion, a single pound of his fist against the dashboard. Then, with the discipline that had defined his career, he composed himself, started the engine, and drove away. What Edwin Porter and everyone else at First National Bank didn't know was that James Matthews was engaged to be married to Sophia Loron, founder and CEO of Loron Global Enterprises. Their relationship had been kept deliberately private at James's insistence. He'd wanted to establish his community center on his own merits, not through his connection to Sophia's wealth and influence. That evening in their penthouse apartment overlooking the city, James recounted the day's events to Sophia as they prepared dinner together. He wasn't looking for her to solve his problem, just sharing his frustration as partners do. It's not even about the loan anymore, he admitted, chopping vegetables with unnecessary force. It's the dismissal of the entire community, writing off thousands of people as not worth investing in. Sophia Loron, elegant even in casual clothes, listened intently as she always did. At 36, she had built her technology empire from the ground up, turning an innovative security software into a global corporation. Her sharp intelligence was matched only by her strategic mind and unwavering principles. You know, she said carefully, Loron Ventures could fund the entire project tomorrow. James shook his head. We've talked about this. I need to do this myself. It's not about pride. It's about creating something sustainable that doesn't depend on a single benefactor. Even when that benefactor is your fiancé? She asked with a small smile. Especially then, he replied, softening. The community needs to see that someone from their neighborhood built this, not that it was a handout from the wealthy side of town. Sophia nodded, understanding his position even as she contemplated alternatives. She respected his integrity. It was one of the first things that had attracted her to him when they met at a charity gala 2 years ago. While other attendees had flocked around her for proximity to her wealth, James had engaged her in a debate about effective community policing strategies, completely unimpressed by her fortune. Later that night, while James slept, Sophia sat in her home office, the city lights twinkling beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows. Her fingers flew across the keyboard as she researched First National Bank. What she discovered troubled her deeply. A pattern of loan rejections in minority neighborhoods, predatory lending practices, and multiple complaints filed with regulatory agencies. By morning, she had formulated not just a response to James's humiliation, but a correction to a systemic problem. She made several calls to her financial team, her legal department, and finally to her assistant. Clear my morning schedule, she instructed, and have the car ready in 30 minutes. When James kissed her goodbye before leaving for a meeting with community organizers, he noticed a certain gleam in her eye. What are you up to? He asked suspiciously. Just handling some overdue business matters, she replied with an innocent smile. Good luck with your meeting. I have a feeling things are going to work out for the community center. James knew that look but was running late for his meeting. Sophia, he began warningly. Trust me, she said, kissing him again. I'm just going to have a conversation. At precisely 9:15 the next morning, Sophia Loren's Bentley pulled up in front of First National Bank. Her driver opened the door, and she emerged, stunning in a perfectly tailored charcoal suit that probably cost more than most bank employees made in a month. Her presence was commanding, her expression determined. Inside, she bypassed the reception desk and walked directly toward the bank president's office, her heels clicking purposefully on the marble floor. Employees stared, recognizing one of the most powerful women in the business world. Edwin Porter emerged from his office, immediately spotting the commotion. His eyes widened in recognition and opportunity. He hurried forward, straightening his tie. Miss Laurent, what an unexpected honor. I'm Edwin Porter, Senior Loan Manager. How may I assist you today? Sophia regarded him coolly. I'm here to see President Harrington. He's in a meeting, but I'd be more than happy to help with whatever financial services you require, Porter said smoothly. We cater to distinguished clients such as yourself. I'll wait, she replied dismissively, walking past him to the president's assistant. Please inform Mr. Harrington that Sophia Laurent is here to discuss an urgent matter regarding the bank's lending practices. The assistant immediately picked up the phone. Within moments, the bank president's door opened, and Charles Harrington himself appeared, a look of concern mixed with curiosity on his face. Miss Laurent, please come in. It's an unexpected pleasure. As Sophia entered the president's office, Porter hovered awkwardly nearby until Harrington firmly closed the door, leaving the loan manager standing outside, confusion and anxiety battling on his face. Inside the office, pleasantries were brief. Sophia declined coffee and came straight to the point. Mr. Harrington, are you aware that your bank has been systematically denying loans to qualified applicants from certain neighborhoods? Harrington's smile faltered. Miss Laurent, I assure you our lending practices adhere to all regulatory requirements. That's not what the data shows, Sophia replied, opening her tablet and displaying a series of graphs. My team has analyzed publicly available lending data. Your rejection rates in predominantly minority and lower-income neighborhoods are significantly higher than statistical norms, even when controlling for credit scores and income levels. The color drained from Harrington's face. These matters are complex. There are risk factors that— Let me be more specific, Sophia interrupted. Yesterday, a loan applicant named James Matthews was not only denied but publicly humiliated by your loan manager, Edwin Porter. His application wasn't even reviewed despite meeting all your stated criteria. I'm not familiar with this specific case, Harrington said carefully, but I can certainly look into it. That won't be necessary, Sophia replied. I've already done the analysis. Mr. Matthews has excellent credit, sufficient collateral, and a business plan that 3 independent financial advisors have deemed sound. Yet Mr. Porter rejected him without review and made discriminatory comments in front of your staff and customers. Harrington shifted uncomfortably. If Mr. Porter behaved inappropriately, we will certainly address. Here's what's going to happen, Sophia continued, her voice calm but unyielding. Laurent Ventures has just purchased a controlling interest in your bank's parent company. Harrington's jaw dropped. That's not possible. The trading would have been in private, through multiple channels, and finalized at 8:30 this morning. Sophia finished for him. I now effectively control this institution's future, Mr. Harrington. The bank president seemed to age 10 years in 10 seconds. What? What do you want? A complete audit and overhaul of your lending practices, effective immediately. New community investment initiatives focused on underserved neighborhoods.